Hello, welcome to today's news charter. So, as you all know, the goal of news charter is to help you understand how to cover current affairs in 15 minutes from newspapers. So, let's start with today's news charter. Okay, so these are the focus topics for today, and the first topic is India ASEAN FTA. But before that, we will first cover the prelims practice question for today. So, which of the following countries is not an ASEAN member? Always remember, UPSC will try to trap you in these kind of questions by asking which of the following are not. So, don't miss these things. And yeah, as you all know, ASEAN is a grouping of 10 countries, which includes Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and then Vietnam. Then you have Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, and Brunei. So the correct answer for this question will be Myanmar is there, Brunei is there, Cambodia is there, Papua New Guinea is not a member of ASEAN. So, why this question we have asked today is because there has been talks of renegotiation of India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, which is also formally known as ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. Now, why this renegotiation is happening is because it's been over, almost 2 decades of the India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. And what has happened over these years is that there has been a lot of fiscal deficit on the part of India, trade deficit with ASEAN countries, because ASEAN countries are mostly export oriented. So the amount of trade or the amount of export that is happening from India is less than the amount of export that is happening by other countries into India, which is acting against India's favor. That is why we are talking about, you know, modernizing the free trade agreement with the broad objective of bringing down India's fiscal deficit. How this will work is, we will incorporate the changes in the rules of origin which have happened over the years, and it will also help in blocking the goods which are being rerouted from China through this changed rules of origin. You can use this data in your means that India ASEAN has a trade deficit of 43 $0.57 billion in 2023, and before FTA it was $7.5 billion. So it is clear that this free trade agreement has not been that much beneficial for India, and that is why we are talking about renegotiating this. Okay, so we'll move on to our next news, which is how to promote manufacturing sector. So as you all must be knowing, India has had a jump directly from agriculture to service sector. And in this, the manufacturing sector has basically had to suffer. So now we are talking about promoting manufacturing sector because that forms a very basic source of economic growth. And now that we are going for a 5 trillion economy goal, so that cannot be done without a strong manufacturing sector. One good example of this is China. China has been growing immensely because of a very strong, manufacturing sector. So, how to promote manufacturing sector? Manufacturing and value-added services can be carried out in rural areas and around farms, small, labor-intensive, low-capital enterprises for processing agricultural produce and transporting and selling it to the nearby markets. So, doing it in small areas so that everyone is engaged in agriculture, and it will also help to remove the disguised unemployment which is happening in the agriculture sector, so that people can move from agriculture to a more productive manufacturing sector. Investing in education and skills for high-end manufacturing services. And you should also know that India has a scarcity of land and financial capital. So focus should be on MSMEs because large uh, industries will require a large amount of land, a large amount of capital, and since in India the per capita income is not that high, so we should focus on MSMEs. And if we do that, our manufacturing sector will take a boost. Even today, MSMEs form a major chunk of economic contribution towards the manufacturing sector. So these are some of the points that you can note down for mains, especially. And we'll move on to our next news, which is India's tuberculosis burden. So uh, basically, India accounts for 27% of the TB cases worldwide, which is also world's highest country-wise TB burden. This is a very important data which can be used in your mains answer whenever there's a question on tuberculosis. You can introduce your answer with this data. Now, uh, tuberculosis as a disease is treatable, but the treatment is challenging because the treatment requires long duration of taking medicines regularly. And for a drug-sensitive TB patient, they must take the medication for 6 months, and the treatment also includes some drugs that have side effects and difficulty in swallowing, especially if there are children or elderly people. So because of all these problems, uh, we have seen a lot of cases of TB which are not being cured, and it is leading to a lot of deaths, and it is leading also to a lot of further transmission of diseases. So scientists are now exploring the possibility of reducing the treatment up to 4 months. That is why this was in news. And this might lead to increased continuation of taking medicines and lead to reduction in the India's tuberculosis burden. This particular move will help India because India aims to eliminate tuberculosis by 2025, while the global target is 2030. So we aim to eliminate tuberculosis 5 years ahead of the global target. And in order to commit to that, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has promoted various initiatives. There is a national strategic plan for TB elimination, which was introduced in 2017, and there are other initiatives as well, such as TB Harega Desh Jeetega. So let's see something about tuberculosis from the prelims perspective as well. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this. This will be very important for prelims. Tuberculosis is caused by a bacterium, which is called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It is caused by a bacteria, and you can see how tuberculosis and infected and non-infected cells look like. In humans, mostly TB affects the lungs, which is known as pulmonary TB, but it can also affect other organs, which are known as extrapulmonary TB. Now, TB is spread from person to person through air, so it's a communicable disease. And BCG vaccine is used to protect against TB. Now, one more reason which you can cite for India having a high TB burden is because this BCG vaccine works well in some geographical locations and not so well in others. So generally, the farther a country is from the equator, the higher is its efficiency. So the BCG vaccine efficiency is higher in countries which are away from the equator, the European or North American or Australian countries, which are like as you go away from the equators, they will be the effectiveness of BCG vaccine will be increasing. So very important from prelims perspective. And then we'll move on to our next news, which is unemployment problem in India. So, there have been various claims of increasing unemployment and everything in the recent times. But as per the data from the Periodic Labor Force Survey, the unemployment rate in India had hit a high of 6.1% in 2017-18, and currently it has reduced to 3.2%. So, in absolute terms, unemployment in India has reduced. And again, this is an important data which you can cite in your mains answers. But the problem which Indian economy is facing is that the highest rates of unemployment are faced by young and highly educated workers. This seems to be the structural feature of Indian economy since the 1990s, that people who have higher education are facing higher unemployment rates. So some of the reasons, although we need a lot of research into this, that why exactly this is happening, and there are a lot of social, cultural factors as well in this, But mostly the structural reasons include the inability of education system to impart the required skills to the students, uh, and also the inability of the economy to generate enough jobs, because we say that we are in a phase of demographic dividend boom. So a lot of young people suddenly got graduated, and the economy could not accommodate this growing educated population, and it could not translate it into jobs. So as you can see, the unemployment rates of young graduate has been mostly higher than the general unemployment rate. So if you, these are some of the reasons. If you can think of some other reasons, put down in the comment section as to the reason for unemployment problem in India among young graduates. So these were some of the important news for today. The fact in today's newspaper, which you can cite in mains exam, India's fiscal deficit may reach 5.9% GDP target for this year, and it could hit 6%. You can use in your economics answer, and the reason is revenue spending exceeding the budget estimate. Now, the main question for the day, uh, we will discuss it. Explain the reasons for high TV burden in India. Do you think the existing government initiatives are sufficient to reach the goal of TB Mukt Bharat by 2025? So you need to list down. So you write an introduction as we discussed in the tuberculosis section. Write the introduction, and then you need to write the reasons. So you write the reasons for high TB burden, both, intrinsic, extrinsic, the vaccine reasons, whatever we included. Then you list down the government initiatives. You can make it as a flow chart also, and what more steps need to be taken in order to reach the goal of TB Mukt Bharat by 2025. So this is about the main question for the day. These are some of the important points which you can note down from for the prelims examination. And so yeah, that's it for the news for today. And we'll see you again tomorrow. All right, all the best.